John, I don't know. I can't hear you. Let me see if I can. If I have to fix something on my end. I don't know if you can hear me. Let me see here. Hang on one sec, John. Sorry about my technical difficulty here. Okay, I'm not the only one. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I see Wayne says you guys can hear me. All right. Hi everybody. I don't know if some of you tuned into my Instagram live takeover with Lake Bell the other day for Harley, the finale of season 3, but that one started off with technical difficulties as well. So maybe I'm cursed. I thought the other show turned out great though, so I fingers crossed. Okay, Andre says you're good on my end, Patrick. Thank you, Andre. Oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah, there we go. We have some repeat customers. How are you doing, Timer? I am like, yeah, this is me. I'm Lake's agent. I got dressed up. I didn't even explain my whole bit. It was going to be a much better bit. I was wearing my tux that I wore to the Emmys, uh, and then I forgot my bow tie. So the bit completely failed. Um, so then I told everyone I was Lake's agent, but I haven't gotten any calls yet on her behalf. So I don't know that anyone actually believed me. If you guys can still hear me, there is a power outage in Pasadena. So I had to get in my car and drive somewhere with some good reception. And I hope this is good enough. All right, cool. You guys can still hear me? Yeah, give me the thumbs up. All right, I'm reading some of the comments now while we're waiting for John. Uh, let's see. The first one here. I'm gonna butcher your name. I apologize. It's either Doubt or Dot Barisha. I dug the show. I'm curious what the plan is for next season. Well, I don't know if John has some specific questions about that, but one of the exciting things is that we have a new showrunner who's technically not new, Sarah Peters. She's been with the show since season 2, and as a writer on it, producer level writer on the show, and she's written some of the most, I would say, seminal episodes of the show. Season 2, she wrote the Catwoman episode introducing her character to the series. She wrote the Bachelorette episode on Themyscira, and she ended up writing the season 3 premiere um, with our dearly departed Queen Elizabeth II. Uh, and yeah, so she's taking over the show on a day-to-day basis for season 4. And when I say taking over, I should say has taken over, because we actually started writing that last year in the summer is when we started writing season 4. Um, I can hear some audio on the other end. I don't know if John's
Yeah, I'm
back.
here.
Oh, you're here. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. I was
excellent.
just
No, no,
answering
I
some
didn't
of
want
the
to.
comments.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you did that, and it's great to hear that there is a season 4 because that was
There
going to be
is
one of my
indeed a
first
season.
questions.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, just to talk about that a little bit. Um, a couple of weeks ago, obviously HBO Max and Warner Brothers Discovery went through a big change. A lot of their stuff, their shows, their movies, etc., as we're all very well aware, ended up getting either pulled from the service or pulled before they landed on the service. Batgirl being a huge example of that. And so we got a couple of weeks ago, we got a call from Warner Brothers Animation. They were like, "Oh, it's urgent," and we were like, "Uh oh, we're about to meet the same fate as Batgirl." And but then it turned out to be the opposite. That they said that season 3 is doing super well for the service. They're really happy with the show, critically and eyeballs wise, it's doing quite well. And so everything was sort of on schedule. So
That's
we
so
breathed
great,
a
man.
huge sigh of relief. Yeah. um, so I don't, we don't have a premiere date yet, but because they kind of held off the announcement, and we had already kind of gotten the wheels spinning on that. Hopefully, the wait's not going to be nearly as long as it was between seasons 2 and 3, which that was especially long because we ended up changing services, going over from DC Universe to HBO Max. But HBO Max is our new home, and hopefully permanent home for the foreseeable future.
So great to hear, Patrick, honestly. And I mean, meanwhile, I don't know if you mentioned it at the top when I was having my technical difficulties, but I also want to mention congratulations on Abbott Elementary and
Thank
the
you.
Emmy. And got it. No, I'm truly, man, from the moment that we met when you were, on Powerless and had the thankless job of, kind of shepherding that show through the minefield that it had. And man, you have just bounced back so well, and I'm so glad. And Justin is, am I right? Justin is also well with Abbott Elementary.
Oh yeah, yeah. Justin and I are still partners, still both connected with our overall deal at Warner Brothers for television. Um, yeah. So yeah, we are inseparable. we are.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a great show. I mean, Abbott Elementary is such a great show, and I kind of stumbled on it. And really, in these days when I think quality network television, it's tough to find or distinctive network television. And Abbott Elementary is just so good, and I'm so glad it got recognized for that, especially for its writing and stuff. And yeah, that's just a testament to all you guys and women.
Yeah, and Quinta Brunson, who created the show, and executive producer as well. She is just she's been a phenomenal creative partner, and we met her. We did a CW pilot with Rob Thomas, who created Veronica Mars and iZombie, and we were consulting producers on Justin and I were consulting producers on iZombie season 2. And so that's the first time that we had gotten to work with Rob. And then we did a pilot with him, an hour long, kind of a light hour long, called "It's the End of the World as We Know It," very very loosely based on a novel. And we ended up casting Quinta in it, and it could not be farther afield from Abbott Elementary. It was about these two girls from the Valley in Los Angeles, and they stumble upon a crashed spaceship. Which turns out to have been piloted by this space cop, and he had 100 of the universe's deadliest criminals who all escaped and are hiding somewhere in like Reseda and Van Nuys. And so it became sort of like this monster of the week show with these two like Valley girls teamed up with this space cop. And Quinta was one of the female leads in the show. Justin and I were unfamiliar with her work prior to that with BuzzFeed and but she came in, she just like crushed the audition. I was like, who is this person? And the the casting director was like, "Oh, you don't know who Quinta Brunson is?" And then we asked like anyone who was like under 30 at the time, and they were like, "Oh my god, I love Quinta." So we were up in Vancouver for a month shooting that. The pilot died, but we stayed friends with Quinta. And then a couple of years later, after Harley had gotten off the ground, Quinta was like, "Hey, I'm really interested in doing an animated show and partnering with you guys." And she told us the story of her mom, who was a public school, elementary school teacher in Philadelphia and West Philly for over 40 years. And
Wow.
she told us this really amazing story about, visiting her mom during like a parent teacher conference night, and how her mom had to stay until 9 at night, like well after hours, to make sure that all the parents who were working late night could go and have their time with her. And just it was a great example of the lengths that these teachers, who are, I would say, not very highly paid. I think that's very fair to say, very known. That the hoops that they have to jump through to make sure that their kids get a quality education. And it was a very moving pitch, but very funny. And so yeah, we ended up. She wanted to do it as an animated show, still kind of like a mockumentary style with talking heads and whatnot, but animated. And it was kind of a function of like her availability, because she was doing another pilot for CBS, a live action thing that for her to star in, um, with Larry Wilmore for CBS. And one thing led to another. All that project fell through. The animated version of what was then called Harrity Elementary fell through. And then I like a year after that, I run into Quinta on the lot, and she doesn't really drive very much. And I was like, "Do you need a ride? I'm headed downtown. You're on the way." And while we're driving to her place, I'm like, "Have you ever thought about doing Harrity Elementary as a live action broadcasting? Because Justin and I are looking to do that. We want to come up with a big broadcast show." And she was like, I had the exact same thought.
Oh,
One
that's
thing led
great.
to another, and like a month later, we were taking this thing out to all the broadcast networks. We were going to also take it to HBO Max, but by that point, like, ABC had given us such a nice offer, um, that essentially a put pilot commitment. And we were like off to the races with ABC. And the executives over there were like longtime coworkers and friends with, because they actually came over from Warner Brothers. So it was kind of this match made in heaven, just sort of the perfect storm. And yeah, here we are a year later. We're 2 days away. This is Monday the 19th. So yeah, on the 21st of September, Wednesday of this week, um, Abbott season 2 premieres. And yeah, and we got some Emmy nominations and wins. And um, yeah, I think great things are in store for the series. And I mean, just a stellar cast, outstanding
Yes.
writing staff. Our crew is phenomenal. Our directing producer, who's also an executive producer on the show, Randall Einhorn, who comes from the world of The Office, and knows this format like the back of his hand. Phenomenal partner. So yeah, the show is just kind of, it's a bunch of all stars. It's really something. And it's gonna run, I think, as long as, knock on wood, but I think it has the potential, at least, of running as long as Quinto wants to do the show, honestly.
That's
So
wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah. Unbelievable, man. Truly. No, great energy to the show, real authenticity. And again, great acting, great writing. I mean, and again, this is, you guys have shown it. The people that you work with, not just Quinta, but everybody on Harley Quinn as well. And again, 3 seasons in on Harley, it's amazing. I agree with Andre Paul, who says it made me love Harley all over again. And it's got a very Justice League United vibe to it. You guys crushed it. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And truly, I'm so glad to hear again that we're getting a season 4 of Harley, because clearly you guys aren't out of ideas. The new characters that you introduced, I mean, I love that you gave a nice soft landing to Kite Man, no pun intended. And I'm glad he found love with Golden Glider. That's excellent.
yeah.
And
It was so tempting and kind of easy, I think, to embitter Kite Man and turn him into a villain. At one point, we were like, "Hey, it seems like that maybe the obvious choice and fun choice would be to, give him legitimate powers and make him the big bad of an ostensible season 4 or season 3 rather. Um, but we were kind of like, I don't know. I mean, he's been through so much in such a punching bag. We were like, yeah, we love him. We want to see him land on his feet. And so yeah, and you know, he's barely in season 3. However, we made it up to Chuck Brown. He's got his own spin-off now, called Noonan's, which we can talk about as long as you like. I can't say a ton, but we HBO Max had asked us to come up with a few ideas for a potential spin-off because Harley had been doing so well
Wow.
for the service. And so yeah, so we have a spin-off. The writers room is it has been going for several months. Yeah, it's a 10 episode order for a series called Noonans. That was the pitch was kind of a cheers for supervillains. But yeah, the basic premise is that Golden Glider and Kite Man team up and pool their money together and buy this bar, you know struggling bar in Gotham, and it just felt like a great sort of character delivery system to have this revolving door of colorful characters and kind of the dregs of Gotham. And so you're gonna see characters, from the Mothership Harley series. You're going to see new series regulars as well, and I probably can't speak to the specifics of it, but one of the things I can say is that Bane is going to be a series regular in Noonan's, and it became quite clear in Harley season 3 after the fan reaction to it that like people want more Bane because it really, I mean, our MO was like, he's so good, but like, we want to make sure the formula is right. We don't want to oversaturate every, episode with Bane. But then people are just like, "Where's Bane? I can't get enough Bane." So we're succumbing to fan pressure and putting him in Noonan's um, quite a bit, and you'll see him in Harley season 4 as well. We've said this out loud before, but it's become a hallmark of the Harley series to have kind of one episode of each season concentrate on a side character. And so one of the episodes in season 4 is all Bane, and it's very unexpected. Kind of genre thing with Bane that I won't spoil, but yeah, so things in the Harleyverse are going quite well. Harley and Ivy will make a little cameo in the pilot of Noonan's, which Dean Laurie, Justin Halpern, and I wrote in last summer before it got picked up. And we thought it was right to have them sort of show up in the pilot to kind of pass the torch and kind of connect the worlds a little bit more. So yeah, it's exciting. I don't want to Unions yet because I can't. It's under lock and key. But we hitters in that cast. I I couldn't believe it. It's sort of like one after the other signed on. It's people it's people you know and love, and from shows and movies that you know and love, old and new. So we've been really lucky attracting some pretty all-star talent to those shows. Yeah, and the luck continues.
That's so great to hear. And I also love that animated sitcoms are following traditional sitcoms in terms of, oh yeah, definitely like Fonzie showing up in the first episode of Laverne and Shirley, man. Absolutely, you got to give him the send off. So 100% on that.
Yeah.
This, Doubt wants to know if spoiler questions are okay. It's funny, Stepan Sejic, who's been amazing in terms of how much he has been watching Word Balloon lately. I really appreciate it, Stepan. But yeah, Doubt wanted to know if spoilers are okay. I'm going to say yes, just because I know, the 10th episode just aired this weekend. But it's just been such a joy. And if anything, I think we could talk about what happened and still people will still enjoy watching it anyway. So, I mean, what a great season. So many great, again, new characters, but recalls as well. I was wondering if there was any sort of budget restraint in terms of, because focusing on King Shark, Bane, and finally we did get Doctor, and I always forget the doctor's last name,
Psycho.
Dr. Psycho. Of course, shame
Yeah.
on me. But yeah, I'm like, wow, it just seems like all of a sudden Harley's group got a little smaller, being just Bane, King Shark, Clayface, and Ivy. But it's, I mean, still the humor was great. But I'm glad to see that everyone else did show up. So yeah, was that any sort of restraint or anything?
No, I mean, if anything, the budget increased now that we were, part of HBO Max proper, and in a Max original versus, DC Universe. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like all of a sudden our budget tripled or anything, but we had more money for more characters, additional actors, additional voice actors in each episode. I think despite Harley's crew condensing, the scope of the show expanded. I think
Oh yeah.
historically we've kind of, our penultimate episodes of every season have been kind of the big one, and then the final episode is more of like a coda or connective tissue to a subsequent season. And this season was kind of no different. We had the Ivy with the plant zombies at Jazza, and that was ambitious. Like, Jen Coyle. Yeah, Jen Coyle. Like, I give her so much credit to the success of the show, and attribute the success of the show to her in a huge way, because she is in charge of our animation team. She's our supervising producer, who is, she oversees all the, our supervising director, the episodic directors, storyboard artists, design artists, anything, that you see on the screen has been touched by Jen. And she is someone who, probably to her, the detriment of her sanity, does not like saying no to us. But the episode, with the plant zombies, climax of Jazza, episode 309. That that episode, finally, I think Jen was like, okay, we have to be a little bit reductive with what we're trying to do here, or else, like, we're gonna ship animatic and it's gonna probably look terrible. And now Jen's standards, I think, are very high. And that's one of the reasons that she's so great. But we did kind of go through that animatic with a fine tooth comb, and really kind of, we're able to be smart about how we used, like, giant crowd scenes, because that's one of the, just not to get too into the weeds of the animation process, but the way that this works is that everything is done in Burbank up until we lock our animatic, and the animatic is sort of you know the pre-edited kind of herky jerky, black and white, just, essentially like inks, right? Black and white version of the episode, and then we ship to our partner studios. We have, about three of them. All of them are in, Korea, and they take about 18 weeks or so on average to then send back the full color animation, where they're doing all the in betweens, and they're colorizing everything, and making it look, yeah, like a finished product, essentially.
Yes.
Before our VFX artists and team back in Burbank, kind of pretties it up, essentially. And I'm oversimplifying. However, one of the interesting things is that, the way that it works overseas, at least, is that those artists over there that are, penciling in all of they're literally doing it with pencils on paper. It's old
Wow.
school. And then scanning it,
I'm
but
gonna.
they get paid. The way that the pay works is, if you've got a close up on a face, that pays the same amount of money for that frame as a crowd of 100 people. And
Wow.
so, it's essentially diminishing returns when you start to oversaturate the episode with, uh, giant crowds of people. And
Sure.
so we try and avoid that as much as possible. That episode, it was kind of unavoidable. But then we just had to be really smart about, how we used it. And I say smart, but it's more like we had to acquiesce and try and be efficient. um, but yeah, that was kind of one of the things, that I have learned over these, 3+ seasons of doing the show, is, how to kind of manage the scope of it. And I'm not always great at it, because I do kind of have a tendency of writing things big, or want them to be big, and then, I mean, yeah, I come from live action world where, you have your standing sets, and
Sure.
occasionally you can build your swing set that's going to appear in like one episode, maybe three episodes, and then that gets broken down. But you have this literal physical thing in front of you, and you don't think going into animation, or I didn't, when I first started out at Harley, you think like, oh, the sky's the limit, you're just drawing. And it's like, no, like, I've never, like there are X amount of people, board artists working on the show, designers. There's like, you can't just like keep going and design infinite spaces. Let's like reuse spaces, otherwise we're gonna like literally like injure our board artists. I've never seen crew members on a show until Harley walking around with like wrists in slings, because and it happened on Harley, and because like we didn't know. And again, like the animation team wants to say yes to everything. They want, they get excited about stuff too, but then when it comes time to execute, um they were like killing their wrists. They were literally like killing their wrists. So it I always had a great respect for the animation process, but it wasn't until I was in the thick of it that I really understood it, and they are doing God's work. So
Well, not only the crowd scenes, but the Villies episode, the Villain Award episode, and you did this last year with the Legion of Doom stuff as well. Just all the Easter eggs of all the background people that never speak, but there's Reverse Flash, there's Solomon Grundy wearing a noose for a necktie. I mean, just great stuff like that. That was just fantastic. And then also, what we did see front and center in terms of the Joker emceeing the awards, and I love the in memoriam segment that you did. And again, ironic timing. I mean, obviously you made this stuff before you knew Abbott was going to be nominated for any Emmys, but it was just that, and also God. I hope everyone understands. And again, you made this, well before it happened. But the Queen Elizabeth moment in the first episode, good Lord, there's some ironic timing.
Yeah. Yeah. The Queen Elizabeth thing, I remember, we wrote that in, oh my gosh, it was like, I mean, we were working in like January of 2021, I think,
Sure,
on that. And I remember writing it in, Sarah, it was Sarah Peters' script, and, working with her on that. And we had Queen Elizabeth in there, and I was thinking like, man, she's up there. We're rolling the dice. We're rolling the dice a bit. So yeah, it was I had a couple of sleepless nights thinking like, oh, we're gonna
aw,
maybe have to cut that out. But it's interesting because I just got an email with, like, the show premiered in the UK, either this week or last, or maybe it's about to. I'm sorry that I can't remember. I should know this, but we got an email where it was like, okay, out of respect for Queen Elizabeth, we have to recut this a little bit, and there are some of that stuff in just the UK release, out of respect to her, is not going to
sure,
be in it. So it'll be
okay,
interesting. I haven't seen the cut of it. I was just kind of given a list of like the things that were going to get lifted, but obviously, the sensitivities in that country are much higher.
of
I would
course,
assume, and so yeah, it's
yeah,
going to look a little bit different. Um,
okay.
I see. Stefan said, "Artists are a self-destructive breed. Can confirm. Thank you for confirming." Um, yeah, I can't contradict that based on my limited firsthand experience, but that's hilarious.
Absolutely, man. No, that's great. Hey, Wesley has a really interesting question. He felt the season touched on some similar notes as Fear State. And geez, I'm sorry, Wesley. I'm gonna have to like take your comment down as I read it because
Oh,
I've
you
got.
edited it, yeah.
But essentially, he's wondering if the writers are paying attention to what's happening in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent. I mean, for sure. I think, I would say that the show is probably in general a little bit behind the
Sure. Well,
comics.
of course.
Yeah. And I certainly think that they end up kind of, and it's not like we have these sort of like big like synergy meetings or anything with the publishing side at DC, although we do have our I'm holding a copy right here. If you haven't picked it up, it's the Eat Bang Kill adaptation of the show. It's out in hardcover right now. Um,
Fantastic.
that T. Franklin wrote with Max Sarin on art, and
Oh,
they
that's
did a great
great.
job. But yeah, and Max was like my first choice for it because I'm like, who can capture like the comedy and especially like the facial acting, and like I was like, oh, Max. And then when Warner Brothers and DC told us that they were available to do the art, I lost my mind. But that's neither here nor there. To answer your question about Fear State, I mean, I was certainly reading those books as we were making the show. So there wasn't anything that specifically crept into it, but I'm sure that I was subconsciously influenced by that stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I
Well,
got to
all
meet
the go ahead.
James, and I met a bunch of the Batman writers at Comic-Con this year. I got to meet Scott Snyder
Oh,
and
it's great.
James Tynion and Josh Williamson. And
Sure.
I'm working on a project that I can't really talk about. It's a movie thing that involves Josh, and we've become friendly. And yeah, he introduced
Oh,
me to
that's wonderful.
everybody down there after the Eisners, which was pretty special. And I got to tell Scott Snyder that we were going to completely defile the Court of Owls in episode 4 of Harley, and he
which
was so
which you did.
earnest. Scott's like so earnest and such a good guy, and he's just like, oh man, like I just think it's so cool that like I came up with an idea, and like then somebody's like running with it, and I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. You might hate this, but but
Well,
but
I'll find
I
out
never
Wednesday.
heard any
I'll find out
I
on
never
Wednesday. I'm
heard
talking.
any
I'm talking to Scott
negativity.
on Wednesday, so I'll let you know.
Oh,
That is
please
hilarious.
do. Please do.
Absolutely,
He's
man.
such a stand-up guy. But
Oh yeah,
yeah, yes, the Fear State thing. I love that arc. It was incredible.
yeah.
Love the artwork. I think Jorge's like, oh my god,
Amazing
the
artist.
best.
Yeah, yeah. Um. Oh God, I was.
I loved it. Black, white, and red story was incredible. But the whole anthology series is a big part of, which was pretty amazing. But
I.
the whole run of Harley's comics, from Jimmy and Amanda's like early stuff,
Sure.
through now, like Stephanie and Riley's stuff now. 100% that like just the general kind of ethos seeps into my brain and the other
Sure.
writers, and makes its way. And but yeah, we will, and we talked about this a little bit on the show before, that we'll oftentimes take sort of large events that have happened within the Batman kind of universe and make them our own. We did
Yeah.
sort of our version of No Man's Land, for instance, at the end
Last year.
of season 1 going into season
Right.
2, and
Oh yeah, that's right.
that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
No, yeah, well, and also I love that Nightwing shows up this season and the expansion of the Bat family and the dynamic that Nightwing brings to Damian and Batgirl and Bruce for that matter. And poor Bruce going through his psychosis and everything pretty heavily was
Yeah.
fantastic. And and also you leave Bruce in a very interesting place for season 4. So that's gonna be fun to explore next year, and how the Bat family acts without his leadership, and that's going to be, and especially that he hands the team over to Batgirl, not to Dick, but to Batgirl.
Yeah, that there's a power, there's a spot left open, essentially. Who's going to be leader? We have Harley as the newbie. We have
Right.
Nightwing as the prodigal son, having returned, and then we have Batgirl, who is kind of at least based on what Bruce says to her at the end of season 3, kind of the chosen one, and
Yep.
so that's going to create some interesting conflict. um yeah. And no, I mean, and Harvey Guillen was such a wonderful addition to the cast this year. Harvey, who many people know as Guillermo from What We Do in the Shadows, came in and just knocked his version of Dick out of the park. Um,
Absolutely.
he's so great. He's so great, and I finally had a chance to hang out with him a couple of times at these various awards, because What We Do in the Shadows was also very highly regarded, as it should be. I love that show. It's
Amazing
wonderful.
show.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm glad, as Tamara just said, I'm glad to see we had the return of Alfred as the macaroni.
of
And that's
course.
great. And his penny farthing bicycle and his great steampunk airship and everything. Outstanding, man. Hilarious.
We're just waiting on McFarlane Toys to show up and make a macaroni.
I also want to, much like I wanted a Bane coffee mug, and I forget what the slogan was on Bane's coffee mug.
Caffeine is my reckoning.
There, and then also Dr. Psychos as well, and his podcast. And again, as a podcaster, and also, dude, that Frasier opening that you threw in, and also the Joker's sitcom. It's those are just great touches, honestly. And Patrick, I'm not going to make you comment on these other shows, but as regular listeners and watchers of Word Balloon know, I have my issues with a couple shows that call themselves adult humor, and frankly, they miss the mark. And I'm so pleased at every season of Harley Quinn nailing it. It's smart, it's funny, it respects the source material in the best way, and you guys deliver and go in directions that are complete surprises, but also at the same time familiar. And you guys deliver in a way that a couple shows that I wish would have better don't. Frankly, again,
Oh
that's my
well.
editorial.
Oh well. Thank you very much. I mean, yeah, it's obviously we're taking the piss out of a lot of characters, but we and it sounds like for a lot of people, yourself included, it does come through that we are doing so with love. My therapist has told me before, my love language is sarcasm. So I we do genuinely love these characters in this world, and it's just been a phenomenal gift from DC that they have let us play in the sandbox in the way that we have so far. Because yeah, they could very easily have written off the show and written us off, as the creators, and said, "No, you guys, this is like absolutely, disrespecting the IP and all of that." And we and but they've been fantastic partners and just have trusted us. And obviously the fan reaction has been really phenomenal as well, and I think that helps ease
Sure.
everybody into this, that like, hey, the fans, they understand this is a comedy. This is not sort of this is not mainstream DC canon. It exists in its own little corner. And yeah, and that has also afforded us some really amazing, like, big swings, right? So
Yeah.
um yeah, it's been awesome.
From
I keep
season
thinking
one.
about that. Oh, sorry, what'd you
No, I
say?
just said from season one. I mean, that's the thing. It was like they're letting you do that with Doctor Psycho. Okay, they're letting you do that at the Penguin's nephew's bar mitzvah. Okay, that's great. And
Yeah.
again, it's like they recognize that you guys are making an adult show and that they aren't sacred with the IP. I stepped on you. What were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna add on to what you just said, that they're letting us make Jim Gordon an incompetent alcoholic, so long as we promise that he's got a redemption arc at some point, which he went through. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I was gonna say that before that. I was still thinking about that whole fear state thing, and like, if we ever get to, we killed Scarecrow off at the end of season 1. Raul
Yeah.
Coley from iZombie and Midnight Mass on Netflix voices him, and he if we ever get to bring him back, I want to use the Jorge's design for Fear State, because I think that design is so brilliant with the gas mask and like the big straw hat. I don't know. I kept getting hung up thinking about the design of that when we were talking about Fear State.
Oh
I want to
yeah.
do that because oh man, that's what a great redesign of that character.
I want to get all of Timur's quote here, or question,
Yep.
or comment, because I want to build on this. He says Harley Quinn and Peacemaker are great compliments to each other
Mm.
with similar tones and themes. It's quite fitting that James Gunn appeared as himself in this season. But on top of that, I also want to know, was that really Billy Bob Thornton playing himself?
It was. It was. I
Holy
got to
shit.
yeah, I got to voice direct him. It was amazing. He's so good. He did the whole thing in sunglasses, which was hilarious. And I was like, it's so perfectly him, and he's so cool. He was. It was. Yeah, that was really him. Just in the one episode when, or maybe it's across two episodes. We did it all in one session, but
Sure.
basically from the moment that Clayface takes over his body, or starts to impersonate him rather, because obviously his real body was eviscerated by Catwoman's tiger. Then it's Alan, and so Alan obviously had the Russian doll like task of it's Alan Tudyk voicing Clayface, acting as Billy Bob Thornton, playing Thomas Wayne in a biopic. And it was like so many layers, and Alan just like crushed it. But yeah, Billy Bob, that was amazing. He's so great at dry humor. And yeah, the one indelible memory that I have of that was, I'm like, okay, so now, you go through the wrong door, you don't listen to Clayface, or you think it's James Gunn at this point, and he's giving you directions where the bathroom is, and you go in the wrong door, and then lo and behold, there's a tiger, and it eats you, and so I need you, you're getting killed by a tiger, so we need you to scream. Now, Billy Bob is he's a recording artist as well, like a musician, and
Yes.
he's very concerned about his vocal cords, and so he gave me this very polite, very lengthy story about why he would prefer not to scream. And then I was like, he's like, at the end of the day, you can just, you can put anybody screaming there, it's going to sound like my scream. I'm like, yeah, good point. I'm like, okay, but do me this
Yeah.
favor, can you just say, holy shit, is that a fucking tiger? And he did it, and that's what ended up in the cut, because it's just so funny and weird hearing Billy Bob Thornton say, holy shit, is that a fucking tiger? And then yeah, he gets mauled and his decapitated head rolls out into the hallway. Yeah, that was phenomenal, working with him, working with James Gunn,
Yeah.
who it was just, you know, he was a fan of the show, and I knew that because he had tweeted about it a lot. And we'd followed each other on Twitter. Had been following him for quite some time. He started following me after Harley, and I was like, we're doing this whole thing with a Thomas Wayne biopic. Hard Wayne's gonna fall, and we need a director. And at first we were like, okay, let's go for like somebody who, like a Martin Scorsese, who's like, he's going to be made, because this is like basically like The Aviator but about Thomas Wayne.
Sure.
And and then we were like, well, yeah, that's cool, but like, I like, let's do somebody that like the fans are gonna get excited about, and then we can play it like, oh, here's like a blockbuster fun filmmaker who's like starting to make his foray into like awards bait films. And so James came up. I had brought him up in the room, and everybody's like, yeah, that's cool, but like, we'll never get him. And I was like, I probably, you're right, but I'm gonna, just for the hell of it, DM him. Yeah, we're never gonna hear back, but so I DM him, and then like literally like in 15 minutes, I was like, shot in the dark, big fans,
Yeah.
I know you're familiar with the show, yada yada yada. Here's the basic gist. And in 15 minutes, he responded and was like, I'm in. Here's my agent's number. And I was like, so then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, I got to voice direct James Gunn from up in Vancouver when he's doing Peacemaker. He's over in some studio in Vancouver wearing his big Peacemaker red hoodie, and it was a blast, and he was great, and he was like, he was so, I mean, his sense of humor, and like he was so
Yeah.
willing to like just poke fun at himself, poke fun at like other parts of like the DCU, poke fun of Marvel. I've said this before in other interviews, but like one of my favorite things, and it ended up not making the cut, but for various reasons. But at one point, when we introduce his character, he's doing auditions and Clayface reads for him. And the way that, Clayface gets hired onto this movie is because he transforms himself into a chair,
That's right.
the director's chair, because he hears James Gunn talking about how he needs a chair with better like lumbar support. And Clayface is so desperate to get on the movie that he'll do anything, and he turns into a vibrating chair. So there's the blow to the scene is like James Gunn like getting massaged by Clayface, and then he's in love with his chair, and one of the alt lines that James recorded was, my God, it's like Thanos snapped and I can feel my anus again. And then Clayface goes, who's Thanos? And then we're just out. And it was like fan servicey kind of meta
Sure.
thing. And we were like, yeah, we don't really do meta all that much. And I love the joke, but at the end of the day, we were like, yeah, let's just not do the low hanging fruit of the MCU dig. And I mean, it wasn't even really a dig, but yeah, so then James had ad libbed something, whatever's in there, which is something about like you look like a pile of shit, but you feel like a pile of clouds, was an ad
Exactly.
lib. That was James. That he just did that on the fly. I was like, that's funny. Put that one in there.
Are you going to use the Thanos line in like a bonus feature on the DVDs or something like that?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know what's in store for that stuff, but I mean, I would love to, as a fan of both Marvel and DC. I would love to.
Are there good bonus features on the DVDs? You'll forgive me, but I've been watching it on DC Universe and HBO Max.
They're pretty spare, I have to say.
Okay.
I you know
Okay.
I would be glad to if they wanted us to do like commentary or whatever, I'd be
Yeah.
glad to. Oftentimes we don't even know that they're going to come out. Like originally the first two seasons of Harley came out on DVD, and then they were like, we don't have any plans to do Blu-ray, but then they did release it on like Blu-ray, and then they released it on
Great.
4K. I think they just sort of wait and see how it does, like
I
how
understand.
sales do. And so the initial ones were, they're pretty like straightforward. It's the episodes, and then maybe there's some like interviews, but mostly it's pretty like bare bones. But
Well,
yeah,
I'll remind the word balloon audience that you and I did an extensive episode by episode review of season one, and also pretty good. We clumped them together for season two, and I'm very happy with those interviews and stuff. So if people want to watch those, they're on YouTube and they're on the word balloon audio feed and everything. And again, you were more than gracious to spend a few Saturday and Sunday afternoons with me recording that stuff.
yeah, that was fun. That was fun. Yeah, no, I mean this season was we you look, we were like, we got Harley and Ivy together at the end of season two. You know,
Right?
what's next for
Yeah.
them, as a couple. We're like, I'm gonna beat this drum until I'm dead. Like, as long as we are running the show, Harley and Ivy are gonna be a couple. They're never gonna break up. They belong together, as far as like myself, Justin Halpern, my partner, Sarah Peters, a new showrunner. As far as we are all concerned, like, they will have to drag us kicking and screaming off the Warner Brothers lot if they want Harley and Ivy to ever break up. But I think everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
The powers that be and us, like, we're all on the same page. And so, yeah, this season became like, well, okay, they're together. So many shows, so many comedies, play these like sort of like will they, won't they things, and then they will and they do and they get together, and then the show kind of
Sucks.
suffers. Yeah, it's like, and so we we're like, what does this look like? And fortunately, I mean, unfortunately for the character of Harley, but fortunately for the dramaturgy of it all, like, we were like, well, Harley, she only knows shitty, toxic relationships. Ivy is someone who genuinely loves her, genuinely cares for her, and genuinely has like put herself kind of second, and put Harley up on a pedestal. What does somebody do with that? Like, what does somebody who's been in unhealthy relationships do when she finally gets into a healthy one? And that's going to create some conflict. And so that's what a lot of this season kind of ended up, being about, at least thematically. And it was, threaded through. And we're like, because we're like, we're never going to break them up. So it's like the stakes are never going to get so high, that they're going to break up. So yeah, so then the season became about, Harley dealing with being in a healthy relationship, putting Ivy first because she had put herself first in the
Yes.
first two seasons, facilitating Ivy's vision for this sort of grand, like supervillain master plan, her evil plot. And then, by the end of it, we were like, we're gonna move them sort of like apart on the sort of, the sort of morality spectrum, let's say. And like, by the end of season three, Ivy is going to be, accepting of her own inner supervillain, and Harley is going to realize, at least for the time being, that she has a hero inside of her. And then that's going to set up, kind of an interesting conflict there, where you've got this kind of, you know this isn't the perfect analog because, well, you'll just, when I say it, you'll know, but it's like, George and Kellyanne Conway. Like, it's like they're still together. Well, that's a horrible analog because I have problems with both of them. But
I'm with you on all of that.
but you know what I mean. It's that,
I
they're
do.
on different sides of the aisle, essentially. And
I
yeah,
I love
and
the audience keeps coming up with these great 2000 examples of Friends and The Office and
yeah,
even
Friends came to
Angel.
mind.
But I'll be
Yeah,
honest, again, showing my age, and you're old enough, I think, to know these references. Hey, Moonlighting sucked right after Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd got together. Christ, I Dream of Jeannie, they get married, and the show went in the toilet. I mean, that's, again, no, you're right, man. This is a classic problem of sitcoms where, all right, we'll do the wedding episode, or where they finally sleep together, and then they don't know what to do. And again, you
yeah,
guys had a great plan this year.
yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, Moonlighting was so good. At
Yeah.
one point, the spin-off idea was Kite Man and Golden Glider in a moonlighting situation.
Ha!
Um, but then they were like, no, let's go with Cheers.
Oh, I no, that is so honestly. This is the thing, man. Again, it's the DC universe, but it's the downtime. I always loved when the Justice League stories would be about monitor duty, and they're just on the satellite hanging out and everything. And it's like, yeah, we've seen them punch each other a million times. It's
Yeah,
the interrelationships, and that's what Harley Quinn's been all about. And not just Harley and Ivy, but everybody on the show, and just how they all relate to each other, whether they like or hate each other. Chris Topher says, love the show, especially what you did with Bruce Wayne and Batman. And again, I'm going to do this so I can read the rest. He says, my only issue is that Ivy come across too much like a butthead. Oh, I disagree. I disagree. I didn't think she was a butthead.
I mean, every character in this show is on some level a butthead at times, but aren't we all? I,
Yes.
I, the
Yes.
stuff I was the proudest thing. I think the achievement of this season that I am most proud of, that we were able to get away with, is what we did with Bruce, what Chris brought up, like that, and that was a lot of credit. Goes to Jameson Borak, one of our writers this season, who did the Villies episode. He wrote that draft, and he also wrote the Batman Begins Forever episode. And I think, the sort of like organic kind of fan service in both of those is phenomenal. But I think he was the one who brought up, I could be misremembering, but just the concept of making Bruce the big bad of the season. And I was kind of like, oh man, like that's exciting to me, but man, I don't know if we're going to be able to convince DC to let us do that. And it took some back and forth and some massaging and some
Sure.
negotiating, but they ended up letting us do it. And I think nobody saw it coming. So many people were kind of guessing who the big bad was, and they thought it was going to be some other canonical figure who was going to just come out of nowhere. And then we were like, nope, it's Bruce. He's distraught over Catwoman and their breakup, and it's exacerbating his sort of latent feelings about his parents. And then this opportunity arises when he's able to understand sort of our MacGuffin this season was, Frank the plant, and these sort of
Yes.
powers that he had been imbued with by Ivy. And then Bruce, smart guy that he is, figures out how to use Frank to reanimate dead human tissue and bring back his parents. And it was like, and then he goes full, psychotic, and he's just so unaware, as you saw in the Jazz Biz episode, of like what
Yes.
he hath wrought. And the one thing we were gonna do, there's a couple things. Justin's talked a lot about this whole like pants pissing moment that we had with where in the movie, in the Thomas Wayne biopic, when they reshoot the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, they had this almost like Team America uh, style like sequence of young Bruce Wayne pissing himself
Oh.
and cutting to the audience and Bruce being like, I didn't do that. but but the other thing was that, and we found a middle ground. The other thing was that the way that that it ended with Bruce and his parents and King Shark. Like the way it is now,
Yes.
the way it ends is that King Shark actually eats Bruce's parents
You might
with
want to turn
Bruce's
away.
blessing, his reluctant blessing. The
Yes.
original version of this was that Bruce is like, he realizes what he's done. He's like, I need to make good on this. And literally, King Shark hands him a shovel and he has to kill his parents.
Oh, yeah.
And
No,
then we
it's
were
better
like,
when you did. Yeah.
yeah, we were
Go on.
like, oh, he's been through too much. We're
Yeah.
torturing him way too much. So we ended up with King Shark bearing that burden, and then of course like Bruce being throwing the shovel at Alfred and being like, here,
But
clean it up.
I'm so glad you mentioned King Shark because I would have forgotten. I didn't write down notes. King Shark's dad's funeral. Everything about the religious iconography of the shark on the cross was again. I can't believe Warner Brothers let you do that. I can only imagine some of the usual suspects of the ultra right shaking their fists. How dare you? And it's like, come on, man! It's hilarious. And also, again, sadly, with QE2 passing away, we have another royal funeral and everything, and just that whole episode with him and his brother, and then the Ocean Master. That was fantastic, man. It really was great.
Yeah, that was Tudyk voicing Ocean Master, and Gary Anthony Williams as King Shark's brother. And yeah, I mean, we had set up in I think it was season 1 or season 2, I can't remember, where King Shark says, well, everyone knows that Jesus was a shark. And we were like, we're going to stick to that. That is their belief system, and so they are an underwater sect of Christianity. And then Jen Coyle was like, okay, uh we gotta get Shark Jesus on the crucifix. And we were like, oh my god, yes, I love that. And then definitely got a couple of notes like, do we have to do that? And we were like, please, please, please.
It's
And they
so
relented.
beautifully ridiculous. Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God. No. Well, again, thank you, Warner Brothers, for those kind of things. And seriously, man, it is good if you look at this season. I almost see this as a rebuttal to, oh my God, Warner Brothers, look what they're doing in Discovery, and they're slashing and burning everything. It's like, thank God that they get Harley Quinn, and also that in the midst of all these projects being, gaslit or canceled, that no, they understand and they see that the audience loves Harley Quinn, and you guys are moving forward. That's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really been phenomenal. I saw Stepan said that explains the fish symbol, I suppose. That is spot on. That's a joke right out of the show. Kudos to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been great, and it's been gratifying to like just exciting, not gratifying. I had nothing to do with the show, but it's been exciting seeing Peacemaker take off, and they're doing season 2, and they're committed to
Yeah.
that. And we've had the opportunity, Justin and I, to meet with Peter Safran, who's one of the producers on Peacemaker, did the Suicide Squad, did a lot of James's movies, also did Aquaman. But just talking to him about some of the stuff that we'd like to do in the future, if we can ever get our hands on a live action DC property, I think it would, I think the stuff that we are inclined to work on would fit right into, the at least the tone, if not the universe of like a Peacemaker, that kind of thing. So that's exciting, and I think they've got I've gotten little whiffs of like what they have cooking up, at least in development. I'm excited for that. I think everything's kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern, just as we figure out who is going to shepherd the
Yeah.
DCEU moving forward. And so a lot of stuff depends on that and what that that either person or team's vision is. And I think they're justifiably, Warner Brothers is being extremely careful about that choice, knowing what they have on their hands and how special it is. And it's this Fabergé egg that they
Yeah.
that they have, and they want to do it right. And kudos to them for now taking that time. And
I
yeah, I'm
I
excited.
I hope that because I had heard on background that they're looking for more of a business producer rather than a creative producer to shepherd things forward. And I understand that to a degree, but I also think you need a Rick Berlanti, you need a Mark Guggenheim. Frankly, Patrick, you need a Patrick Schumacher and a Justin Halpern that understand these characters and can bring them forward and give fresh interpretations, but also see the humor in them while respecting the obvious and the heroic nature of it. And so whomever they decide to choose, I kind of do. I really I think again what you guys have done with Harley Quinn, even Powerless, that again you guys had a really rough, was it 9 episodes that finally made it to the air or
It
8?
was 12 because the original pilot changed dramatically, and so that one never
Okay.
saw the light of day. But then we sort of did a repilot, and then 11 more. So yeah, 12. I think 12 aired. They're if you have CW Seed, or I mean everybody does. I think if you can watch on, or not CW Seed, it's CW.com. Uh, Powerless is streaming on there. I found
Oh,
out the other day. I was like, yeah, and I think it's all episodes. So I think it's got the one with Adam West, which was
that's
the
what I was going to ask.
series
Oh,
finale,
yes.
which turned out to be Adam's
Oh,
last thing that he did on camera.
yes.
Yeah, check it out. I feel like
Hilarious.
about halfway through that season, starting with the episode 6, I think it was, when we had Robert Buckley from iZombie playing Vanessa Hudgens' characters. So this guy that she starts dating, who seems like the ultimate nice guy, and turns out to be a Riddler henchman. Um, that was like when we sort of hit our stride, and we were like, okay, let's get silly with this. We can be elevated. We can be a little broad. Like, it's not just this grounded workplace comedy anymore. It's like a little bit wacky. And once we got to do that and play with the genre tropes a little bit more in a comedic space, I felt like we had hit our stride. And then by the finale, we were in like the bowels of LexCorp, and one of the characters is going through a portal, and you know
Yes.
to Cartaris, and then comes back, and she's like 5 years have passed, and she's a warlord riding this horse, and like it's insanity. It's insanity, but it was so much fun. And yeah, but at that point, I think NBC had kind of like cut bait on the show, and they're like, yeah, do whatever you want.
Right. Right. God, that is such a relief. Both that if you go to CW.com, you can watch the whole series, but especially that Adam West episode, because it was great that they threw it on YouTube as a tribute to Adam and everything. And
Yeah.
it's wonderful. If people haven't seen it, he's from the Wayne Foundation. He's not a Wayne per se, but he is an executive from the Wayne Foundation. And it's so classically everything we love about Adam West on Family Guy, and just his, playing it straight, but with a wink and everything. I mean, just classic Adam West,
Yeah,
you know?
it was fantastic working with him.
Yeah,
Um,
I bet. I
that guy
bet.
has stories, as you might expect.
Uh,
Um,
you know, I met him at one press junket. I got to sit next to him at a round table for one of the last animated movies. It wasn't the Two Face movie. It was the first Return of the Cape Crusaders, and it was so thrilling. And he was so nice and really very genuine, very generous. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, what a legend! What a phenomenal, influential show that is. I'm not talking about Powerless. I'm talking about Batman '66, of
oh
course, and
sure,
that, and that show holds up. And I've like, I as I have aged, my relationship with that show has evolved. And as a child I loved it just as a pure sort of, got superheroes punching each other, punching
Yeah.
out supervillains. And then as I got older, I recognized it as the comedy that it was, and I understand more what they were trying to do, which was like pretty nuanced and brilliant. And yeah, what a show. I have all
You know,
that whole collection on Blu-ray, and it's just so fun to revisit.
ironically, we're recording on his birthday. So
Oh,
today
well,
is Adam
happy
West's
birthday,
birthday.
Adam
So
West.
happy birthday to the bright night. Absolutely. Well, Patrick, you've been very generous with your time, and I'm gonna wrap up. But please, like, let's do something sooner than later. I mean, again, I saw how busy you were too, and I'm glad that it occurred to me. Like, wait a minute. I mean, Harley's almost over. I haven't talked to Patrick. We got to do this. So I'm so glad. And seriously, man, it really means a lot. So thank you for coming back, having these kinds of conversations, answering fan questions, and continued success. I'm just thrilled that we're not only going to get a season 4 of Harley Quinn, but also Noonan's, right? That's the bar.
Yeah, that is at least the working title right now. There
Sure.
may end up being Kite Man in the title. I'm not sure, but right now,
Hell yeah.
everybody calls it Noonan's. Yeah, every single episode has "hell yeah" at the end of it. Um, so credit to Tom King. His work will be immortalized on celluloid.
And
Uh,
I don't know if
yeah,
you encountered this in San Diego, but at Terrificon in Connecticut and Chicago C2E2, I saw several kite men walking around, and they had great costumes, man. They had
I
great costumes.
yeah, I've seen pictures. They're phenomenal. Well, yeah, thank you so much, John, and keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. I love the show. Yeah, I love the in-depth conversations that you have every week, and yeah, I mean, man, I could listen to your show for hours and hours, and oftentimes some episodes last that long.
Yes, they do, especially if I'm talking to a Bendis or a Marty Pasco or somebody
Or
like that.
Tom King.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's you
Tom
got to
King,
break it up into
indeed.
chapters. It's truly the Hobbit of podcasts.
This is true. I know. You're right about that.
And I
I'll
could
take it
listen
for the.
for days, so I appreciate the deep dives.
Well, that means a lot, Patrick, truly, because again, especially the creatives who I appreciate their work, that they like my nonsense. So that means a lot. Seriously, man, you know that. So thanks everybody for watching. Tomorrow night, Patrick, I don't know if you're a Henry Silva fan, who we lost last week, but my Kinescope buddies, Gabe Harbin and Ian Brill, and I are going to be talking about the very interesting career of Henry Silva. And that's going to be Tuesday. And like I said, Wednesday, Scott Snyder. So I'll get his review of your take on the Court of Owls. That's going to be great.
Oh no, I'm scared.
No, stop. Everybody, great questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Everybody, as always, stay safe, stay